It's a little bit scary. Adventure holidays. What do you say to people who back off that a bit?
I'd say don't be scared. There's so many different types of trips. At Exodus we have 500 different tours. There's 100 different countries. They're all graded from leisurely through to tough. So I think that word adventure does scare people. But the average age of people on our trips is actually 55, which surprises a lot of people. I think people think you're going to be
55.
55. So I think people think you're going to be surrounded by maybe people in their early 20s, but that's just not the case anymore. So we really do have a large portfolio of trips. Another thing that scares people is the accommodation. Maybe people think they're going to be staying in not very nice hotels, but the hotels we use are actually 3-star standard. So the accommodation is very nice. So I say don't be scared of the word adventure. There's something for everyone. You know, you're never too old. Just give it a go.
John, many congratulations on your award. G Adventures had virtually no visibility in Ireland 2 or 3 years ago, and I must pay tribute to John for single-handedly creating that noise about them and that sense of enthusiasm and energy about them. What are G Adventures and what exactly do they do?
Yeah, G Adventures, like Ian says there, you know, adventure travel can be scary. But what we specialise in is small numbers of people. That's the difference with us. The average size is around 14 people in a group. That means that you become part of the community, you become part of the group very, very quickly. That's the difference with us. It's a small group tours that we do. You'll get to know one another very quickly as well. But we have as well, you know, the focus on giving back to the community, giving back to the destination that you're travelling to. We're not by any means a charity travel group, but we do want to repay the destination. So you'll find that's the difference with G Adventures, that we will always involve you in getting to understand the community and the destination you're going to. So you can just point it through a window and follow a group tour leader, you know. You become part of the trip very, very good and quickly, you know. That's our difference.
The adventure holiday that Irish people most readily think of, and that is ski and the snow, encountering the snow. It's been a magnificent year across Europe so far for snow, Orla. How is that reflecting itself in, with the consumers?
Well, the consumer confidence. I mean, 2 years ago we were praying for snow. We were doing snow dances for a lot of the resorts, and this year we've had 5 months of snowfall in Europe in the last 3 weeks. So it's just been phenomenal. So I think we're going to have an amazing, you know, ski season. And the good news for the Irish market this year is our last flights on our charters are the 31st of March for a week to our high resorts in France and Austria as well. So we have Easter this year as well. So we've
Easter comes in the tail of St. Patrick's Day.
It does, yes. So it's the 24th. The kids are off school. I know that I have 2 kids that are going skiing. So we've got 2 weeks off the 24th of March for 2 weeks. So we're actually skiing those 2 weeks as well, so which is great. So we have a longer ski market this year, and I think March is going to be a phenomenal because there's so much snow as well. It's going to have a great ski season.
We could spend the entire session talking about one aspect of your product, Martin. The Camino has just caught the Irish imagination. Has that developed awareness of walking holidays abroad generally? Have more people walking as a result of that? Extraordinary. I mean, if you go through the number of nations that use the Camino, not per head of population, Ireland is number 3 or number 4, I'd say, after Spain, Portugal and Germany. And no, it's something that everybody in Ireland has heard about. Has that lifted the profile of walking holidays in general?
It has, Eoghan. Yeah, it's made a huge difference. And I know from our business point of view, the way we got involved in it is almost in reverse order. Because I, as an avid skier for years, I had visited some of the ski resorts in the summer, and I saw how well marked all the ski tracks in the winter, and there were walking trails in the summer. And I thought, this is really, really good. We're going to sell this. And we did, and we sold it with great success. And as we started selling walking holidays in Austria, for example, people said, do you do the Camino? Now, that's 8 or 9 years ago, and whilst the Camino has been a feature of people's lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, it's really only percolated to the top of kind of mild adventure holidays in the last 8 or 9 years. It's now our biggest selling individual type of holiday. It's people, apart from family holidays, it's people who actually walk the Camino. Hundreds and hundreds of people do it every year. For some it's a relaxing week, for some it's the ultimate adventure. It's about cultural immersion. It's all of the things that everybody has spoken about. It's about cultural immersion. It's spiritual, it's physical, it's to achieve a goal, it's to do something. It's really just caught people's imagination, and in one sense it's such a simple thing. You arrive into a place and you walk from A to B. Nothing could be easier. Different days are going to bring different challenges, but it just happens to take place generally in good weather. A beautiful countryside where good food and good wine are part of what people do for years, and they're available everywhere. So for us it's been a great success story.
Anthony, for many years during recession, the beginners, the people who feed the ski market were slower to book. You weren't getting the next generation in. Has that changed as the immense snow that we saw in the last few weeks arrives, and the way that the Irish economy is recovering? Have you noticed an uplift in the ski market?
We've definitely seen that on. So I think through recession, certainly the dedicated skiers stuck with it. I think once you do it once or twice, it's something you don't want to give up on. But certainly we saw a lack of the sort of younger people coming through. But for the last, really actually maybe last 3 years, we've started to see a lot more of it's the nurses and the guards and the teachers and those sort of groups coming through. So I mean, today is a big day for us. Tony, my dad, is off with Today FM. We've about 800 of those sorts of people travelling, and just the demand for those kind of, especially with singles as part of groups like that, is just phenomenal.
How many people go on that trip? It's in Kirkberg next week.
They flew out today, so everybody's on their way. We've about 800 travelling today, and then in 4 weeks we've got our Copper Face Tracks trip, and we're not quite to those numbers yet, but again, it's that kind of crowd coming through, the younger singles, groups of friends.
And the snow is great, as you said.
Snow is phenomenal.
Give me a guide to prices. You have 500 options, so it's going to be very difficult to. But when people think of your product, you bring them to unusual places. You would be associated with faraway places, Asia, places like that. And what sort of lead-in prices do you have for your Vietnam, Cambodia product? Or you can guide me through what would be the more popular products among the Irish consumer?
Yeah, so the most popular product with the Irish consumer, we do a lot of bookings to Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Burma, for long-haul travel. Then when it comes to short-haul European travel, Italy is the most popular destination, so the Amalfi Coast, Sicily, Puglia, a little island called Elba. So they're the top-selling destinations with us at the moment. Prices, they vary, so probably leading from €1,000 through to €2,500. We can do land only. You can sort your own flights.
Does that include flights, or are flights separate for that?
We do both. So if you just want to do land only, you book the land only part of the tour and you source your own flights. If you want us to do the whole thing, we'll do the whole lot for you. Normally we use flights from London, but then we can source flights from Dublin or from any airport. We'll do whatever's easier for you.
So you don't have to go through London. But most of your business would be UK.
Yeah.
So we could take the option of going through Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar down there.
Yeah, right. So whatever's easier for you, we will do, whatever's easiest. If you need pre and post tour accommodation before you start the trip, we'll sort that out for you. We can do private transfers. If you don't want to join one of our group tours, we can do private touring, so we can tailor-make trips for you. We're very flexible, so we don't like saying no. So whatever you want, we'll try and do it for you.
And anything growing, any surprises in the way the Irish consumer is booking with you?
The biggest growing area for us at the moment is cycling and trekking, especially trekking. So our product team back in the UK, they are trying to develop new tours all the time. So that is the growing area.
And trekking, are you talking Machu Picchu or what are you doing?
We do Machu Picchu already. There's a new trekking trip to Iran. There's new trekking trips in Spain, in Italy. There's probably about 50 new tours this year. So if you want to pick up a brochure from our stand, please do take one. There's about 150 walking tours. We are the UK's walking specialist. We're the market leaders for walking holidays. Again, all graded leisurely through to tough. So if you're not a walker already, start with a leisurely trip, maybe 2 to 5 hours walking a day, through to tough trips, which are 11 hours plus. So then we have that whole range of tours for you.
Right, well done. It's a difficult, a diverse subject to give a guide through, and now John has to face the same challenge. You have a lot of product, John. What are we talking about on prices, and do flights come with your product, or do you source them independently?
Again, like Ian says, we can do the flights for you, but it's the retail agents in Ireland that distribute our product for us, and there's a number of them here today. Trailfinders, Dawson Travel, Kane's Travel, they've all got stands here, and they're very well versed on taking our ground package and matching it with the best flight that you're going to need. Because a lot of people
So the agent will package the flights, yes.
Yeah. And a lot of people will take more than one of our trips at a time. So the Galapagos will be a big one for us. So they will sail the Galapagos and maybe take a trip, then a side trip in Ecuador and maybe up to another part of South America. So the agent will put that together for you. So anything is possible. But like that, we do, what do you do, 500 trips? We do 720.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
127 different countries. He only does 100. Prices, like the areas that we have a lot of business from Ireland is South America. Inca Trail and Machu Picchu would be a huge one for us. But also
what
Cambodia,
price are we
Thailand.
talking about Machu Picchu? What price are we talking about Galapagos?
For Galapagos, you're starting around, without a flight, for a week's sailing, about 2,099. You know, but that would be all your food and your drink and everything included on boat. You know, it's a massive growing area, Galapagos. It's on TV all the time, as you probably see. You know, with David Attenborough, but it's caught the imagination of the public, and not just for adventure travel, because most of ours is soft adventures, as Owen said there. But honeymoons, it's a big destination for honeymoons now as well, the Galapagos. I guess honeymoons are not what they used to be. People want adventure honeymoons. They're living together for 15 years, they've probably got 3 kids, and they're sick looking at one
adventure
another.
enough.
Yeah, you know, so adventure honeymoons is a buzzword at the moment,
Right,
you know, it really is, yeah.
Orla, pricing skiing, is it expensive? It has a reputation being expensive because you buy your holiday and then you have to hire the gear and pay lift passes, and these huge regions. I mean, the ski regions are getting bigger and they're interconnecting and joining up, but every time they do that, the price of the lift pass goes up.
The prices of the lift passes, it does actually depend on where you're going to. So the likes of, say, France, the Three Valleys, where you've got 220 kilometres of ski region to ski on, that lift pass would be slightly more expensive than if you were going to Paz de la Costa in Andorra, where you'd be paying about 170 euros, you know. So it depends on where you're going as well. It depends on what kind of a skier you are. So if you're either a beginner or if you're an intermediate or an advanced skier as well. So it just depends. For our package holidays, because obviously with ourselves you have your flights, your transfers, your accommodation, you have reps to look after you when you're at Dublin Airport.
And the ski pass is included in the package, is it?
Not in the package, no, you have to buy them, they are extra. But our package prices start from about $299 self-catering, right up, obviously, that's for our budget accommodation, 2-star self-catering. And we do up right up to 5-star deluxe hotels on a half-board basis. So it depends on what your budget is as well. But for Andorra, you know, your first time ski pack, you've never skied before, so you need your lift pass, you need your skis, your sticks, your boots and your tuition. You'll be talking of about 200, you know, another 300 euros. But you have to remember, when you go on a sun holiday, you're giving your kids money, you know, I want this. When you go on a ski holiday, your entertainment is paid for till 5 o'clock when the ski lifts finish. So, you know, you have to kind of, you know, look at it like that. It's probably
the price
a little
of
bit...
your ticket to Disney Orlando for the day.
Exactly, yeah.
And you do the roller coaster ride on the
Exactly,
mountain.
you know, so, and it's a great family holiday as well, and the family market has really started to step up.
So
and come back
Andorra's
as
the
well.
cheapest, is that fair to
Andorra
say?
would be the cheapest, yeah. We also have Italy. We have the Milky Way there is quite popular we obviously fly into Turin as well, so we have part of the Milky Way, so we've the likes of Salsidu, Clavaliere, Sestriere, those resorts as well. And we ourselves as a tour operator have taken a lot of committed accommodation there as well. So a good 3-star half board there, you'd be talking about $599 for certain dates. In
$599.
$599. That's flights, transfers,
And
accommodation, and half
the
boards.
lift pass on top of that.
On top of that, yeah.
It's about 200, is it?
It's about 220 for those for the Milky Way, yeah.
So you're looking into close to 850, 900.
Yeah.
And then, right, so that's the lead in, and then as you go for better accommodation and better...
It depends on your price bracket that you're looking for as well, yeah. And then a lot of families, you do find that they're looking for the 4-star accommodation. I mean, like Austria is very, very popular with the Irish market. I think the Austrians have a love affair with the Irish, and vice versa with the Irish. That's our biggest market as well. So, and a lot of the accommodation that we do in Austria would be we've got a lot of family rooms there, we've got a lot of quad rooms as well, and the families tend to go skiing during the day. When they come down before dinner, they'd like to have a swim, you know, yourself, to relax after being, you know, skiing all day as well. And it's great for the kids to have something else to do, because by 10 o'clock everybody's exhausted, you're in bed, that's it, lights out, and you're back up at house level for your breakfast, you know. So.
And Martin, flights, and do they come as part of the package? How do you package a holiday, and how much does it cost? And I know you're dealing with a huge variety of product, but we'll start with the Camino, and then you can throw up alternatives to the Camino that you would think of.
On the Camino, the most popular route is the last stage of the Camino, and that's from Sarria to Santiago de Compostela, and that's about 110, 115 kilometres. People generally walk for 5 days, and then they stay in Santiago for 2 nights. The flights vary, but typically from about 170 to about 250 euro, and we add that on to our land price, which is about 500 euro for accommodation, baggage transfers, walking notes and emergency support. And as you were saying, Owen, that concept on the Camino has kind of led into other walking holidays too, and we've extended that this year to Austria. Well, we started last year extending it to Austria, and we've developed it this year, and we've really 2 individual types of holidays in Austria. We do the same concept as the Camino in Austria. We do packages starting at around 600 euro without flights, where you stay one night in each place. You walk, follow walking notes, you walk independently. We move your bags.
The bag gets moved for you, it's waiting for you.
Your bag beats you to your hotel. It's there in your hotel when you arrive in the evening. Fairly typically we take 3-star hotels for 500 to 600 euro per person for a week. And then that's kind of one, and that's we'd say for your very committed walker who wants to spend a week walking. On the other side, and it's what Orla and Tony would see quite a lot of, is for the based holiday in Austria. And we use their flights and we use their hotels, generally 4-star hotels, because it's a little bit of fly and flop without too much flop, because you're in the Alpine resorts, you're in the region. So what we do is we combine the packages with deals from the tourist boards, and the tourist boards, the Austrian tourist boards in summer, they are mad for customers to come to use their lift passes, to walk on their trails. So people can go on a holiday, they can take a trip, say, to Salzburg for a day. The next day you can use the local bus service. You can walk on the trails for 3 hours in the morning or for 5 hours, skip it the next day and do a hike the next day. That's really, really selling well, and it's a combination of relaxing holiday with a little bit of adventure. So it's holidays for people that like walks, as well as people who just want to go on a walking holiday.
I did this myself last summer, and one of the things when you arrive there, you discover, and it's blindingly simple, one of the big advantages is that if you're climbing a mountain in Ireland, the first 1,200 or 2,000 feet can be in wet bog, and you actually haven't started the climb. What happens in Austria is the main lifts, the gondolas, the bubbles, they're open, so you actually are lifted. You take a ski lift up to the base of the mountain, and your climb is all in this very beautiful, spectacular scenery. And the other thing that happens is you have a restaurant with a nice glass of wine somewhere very near the top of the mountain, because these are used during the ski season instead of the soggy sandwich you have when you reach the top of Lochnacola. It's an amazing product, and it's a great the infrastructure is amazing. The infrastructure is built to put 50 or 60,000 people on the mountains, so it's all there in the summer for use by hikers.
Yes, some of that infrastructure, it can move thousands of people an hour, but in actual fact, as well as what you've said, and all of that is quite true, the big thing for lots of people that goes, when you go on something that's not planned but that it's prepared in advance, that you don't have to spend your time looking, what will I do? Because constantly people say to us, we arrive, we know we want to walk, but where do we go looking for the information? When you do it as part of a combined package or a combined holiday, you arrive, the information is presented to you, there's a support structure when you're there, and rather than spend the first day looking around wondering where you're going to go, first morning you're there, it's all, you have the information, it's kind of preloaded information, and you're on the go from the beginning.
Anthony, same question on Topflight and the prices and what's performing in the marketplace. What are consumers booking? Have you seen a change in direction, the sort of resorts they're going to, the quality of accommodation they're booking, and what products have you seen moving that is out there?
We've seen change, but I think it's kind of back to where we were before. When Martin was describing this 30 years ago when I left school, I think
I done my summer season in Austria, as did all the Collins kids. You know, it's a rite of passage. So I just noticed we kind of found ourselves two Irish companies on the same chair, but we grew up with this. You know, Austria is where we went as kids. It's where the dad's business was, and that was started in the summer. We turned it into ski, and then we kind of came over the Alps into the Dolomites and found ourselves down in Sicily eventually. But what we've seen back then, when we look at what we were selling back in the, you know, even the 70s and 80s, it was holidays with a little bit of something else. There was always an excursion or some sort of activity attached to it. And I think that kind of drifted away a little bit. Whereas we look at what we're selling now, both with the winter ski, but even with the summer holidays, there's always something attached. It might only be go do some, you know, walking tour in the afternoon or a bit of pizza making, but people want to do a little bit more than just sit by the pool or sit on the beach. They want to get some sort of activity in there, and especially when you got kids, or in my case, sort of teenagers, you want to get something that's going to bring the group together a little bit. So I think the big shift we've seen is kind of a return to where we would have been more maybe in the 80s and early 90s.
It's quite amazing. Every other major ski market, the closer country is their biggest market. In Britain, if you go talk about ski, France is where they go in big numbers. Ireland's quite unusual in that most of us marginally ahead of France. Austria is, even though it's a further flight. What do you put that down to, Anthony?
I'll put that down to two individuals, a guy from Ryanair and a guy from Austria who got the whole thing rolling in the 80s. I think us Irish tend to rely an awful lot on where people we know have travelled to, and Austria kind of got lucky. You know, you had to take a plane anyway, so it's as easy to take a plane to Austria as it is to France, where of course the British are able to hop in the car and train and head straight down. So I think that, you know, Austria kind of suited the Irish market. It's grown, but you know, I came back from France there last Friday. There's a lot of Irish hanging around the French Alps at the moment.
Not purpose-built like France is, because Austria is actually just very, very beautiful. You know, all the resorts of Saal, St. Johann, a lot of the areas, they're not purpose-built. So people, the Austrians live there themselves 12 months of the year, while in France, the snow was there. So we started to build a lot of the villages. So where a lot of skiers that go to France are the intermediate skiers. So people that are looking for doorstep skiing. So the villages may not be that pretty, but the skiing, to get your access to the mountain is just phenomenal. So that's where you have the three valleys and stuff like that as well. So it's a little bit of the Austrians do love the Irish as well. They think we're very warm people, and the Austrians themselves are extremely warm as well.
What you're saying is Austria's better crack.
Yeah,
Translated into Irish.
I think us Irish can find the crack wherever we go.
Martin.
On that, it's often unsaid and it's understood, and Tony mentioned it because when they started, I remember when the business started, I went out with Tony Collins when Topflight was starting, and they've been going to Bristol holidays for years. But these businesses and these companies and ourselves, we would have developed very personal relationships with hotels. And what's different is that the hotels that we use, for the most part, they're not exclusively, they're owner managed. The guys that own the hotels, and their husband and wife couples and the families who own the hotels have been engaging with our businesses and our customers for years. They tend to be, even though some of them are 4-star, they're not multinational chains. The people they come over and they visit us in Ireland. They come round our staff. They've sat in our offices. They've told us what they have. There's like a meeting of minds. So when we have customers going, we can ring them up and we call them by name and we say we have somebody going. And for us, if we organise, be it a charity group or a local community group, we say, I want you to understand who these people are, and they get it. And that generates for us a huge amount of repeat.
Family-run hotels.
Yeah. And I know we said, I jokingly said, why is Austria so popular? It's the beer. Well, it is, but it's the beer, it's the company, it's to sit down, it's a chat in the evening. Very probably the person who owns the hotel is going to be sitting in the bar with you that evening, or he's going to be walking around the restaurant. And there's a constant engagement, and we find that there's a huge repeat business, and people go 1 year and then the next, and then they like, because there's a personal thing, then they like the concept and they'll expand it a bit. Ian and John are, relatively recently newcomers in the market, will see that go, and I'm sure they've had it for years in the UK, and we sell lots of their product, and they have a similar concept on a more worldwide basis, and it's great for us as a company to have their product in the market too, and we can sell walking holidays, like a guided walk around the Bay of Naples. It's lovely.
Ian, does accommodation matter?
Sorry,
the choice of hotel, is it really important?
Yeah, we want to support local communities, so we will source local hotels, family-run hotels, and that's what responsible tourism is all about, just putting back into the communities. So yeah.
And John?
Yeah, a combination like that. we only contract locally owned hotels. We don't deal with any of the international hotel groups at all. So if there's a 3-star pretty good hotel, we'll pick that over the Hilton. Paris Hilton has enough handbags. We want to give back to the owner of the local hotelier. And the relationship that's built between the holidaymaker and the hotelier is just vital for part of the trips that we sell. Because again, I say, it's immersing you with the community and the culture.
Good question in the front row here.
It isn't a question, it's a comment. We went on a G Adventures trip 2 years ago to Vietnam and Cambodia, starting in Hanoi and ending in Bangkok for 17 days. It was an outstanding trip.
I went to Sri Lanka.
And
When you're talking about adventure travel, no disrespect, but people are thinking it's all young ones that are going on these things, you know? I was on that very trip there last year with some people that were all my vintage as well, and it surprised them that they were doing this. They were getting down the tunnels in Vietnam. We were running around Cambodia, you know. It was incredible, it really is. So adventure travel is not, as Eoghan said, it's not about abseiling or risking life and limb. It's doing something new and different. You know, it's experience. That's what it is, yeah. A bucket list stuff, yeah. When did you travel?
November 12 months.
Okay, perfect time.
And I went down into the Coochie Travel,
Isn't it
or the
amazing?
Coochie Tunnel.
Amazing, isn't it?
No,
Who actually fitted?
oh, I did.
That's no comment on you. They are very, very tight to get into. It's quite scary how people actually travelled in the Coochie tunnels.
The trip, there were 15 the trip, and we travelled in a small bus. We were the oldest, we're in our 60s. The youngest were a couple in their late 20s.
Right.
We all got on well. It was an outstanding trip.
Because the small number of people.
The guide was brilliant, and he made the trip for us.
Brilliant,
and
thank
when
you.
we came home, we realised if we had gone there on our own, we wouldn't have seen
You
as
wouldn't
much
have seen exactly.
at all.
Yeah.
Now, my friend here went to Sri Lanka with G Adventures last
Wow,
year,
wow.
and she thought it was an outstanding trip as well.
Good. Anyone been in an Exodus trip? No?
With these trips,
Solo travel, that's a big bugbear. A lot of people, there's single supplements, solo, people who travel alone, they have a big sign around saying overcharge me for everything.
Yeah.
What do you have, what do you do for solo travellers?
So with solo travellers, they like G Adventures as well. If you're travelling on your own, probably 50% of Exodus clients are solo travellers. You can we match right with the same sex, same age if we can do. If you don't want to
share a room, yeah.
You do share a room, yeah. So if you don't want to share a room, then there are single supplements available, and prices range from some places are free up to £700-800. So the prices do vary depending on which country you are visiting. Personally, I just share a room if I go on one of our holidays. You don't spend any time in the room, it's just the bed at the end of the day. So, there are options there for you to choose.
And John, solo traveller?
It's nearly 60% are solo travellers for us, and the biggest growing area of that is female travellers over 50 in Ireland. It's incredible. It's a contradiction with most people would think. And although I always thought we were very conservative about sharing with strangers, people do it. They don't mind, because as Ian said, you're on the trip. Where you're putting your head down at night is not the holiday. That's just a place to sleep. It's the adventure, it's the experience of the trip itself that people are investing their money in. They don't really care about, getting into the shower and a stranger being in the room, whatever. That's just part of the experience and the adventure as well. But you can get a single room if you want. But I think the safety about sharing with people in strange destinations is one of the things that attracts female travellers. I say it's in the phenomenal amount of people that we get female travellers travelling on their own, but the companionship they get by sharing or being part of these small groups that we do is the safety element.
What's your favourite, Ian, out of your entire range? What's your favourite trip?
My favourite trip,
the portfolio.
Kilimanjaro. So I did Kilimanjaro for my 40th last year. It nearly killed me, but I managed to summit Kilimanjaro, and it's something I know what I do, so yeah.
And John, favourite out of your portfolio?
I think Costa Rica. I did Costa Rica as well last year, and I did zip lining, and I'm afraid of heights. I did whitewater rafting, and I'm not great at swimming. So you push yourself to do things because it's there, you know, and that's what you should do. A little bit scary sometimes, you know.
This lady wants to come back in.
You spoke about people sharing, and that was very true with our group. 2 English ladies in their 30s, they didn't know one another until they met on the trip, and they shared a room because they didn't want to pay the single room supplement. So it does happen.
You do meet friends for life on these trips. That's the best thing about it. At Exodus, we had 4 weddings last year from people who actually met on trips. So I think that's actually a record. So if you're looking for love, yeah, exactly. Blind date.
Like the Old Javago nightclub where love stories begin. Anthony, come in.
On the single room supplements, we've an interesting angle that we take. So when we contract our hotels, it's usually sometimes myself or Tony, my dad, or my brother. And what we point out to the hoteliers, if they haven't spotted already, is that the Irish guests tend to be quite sociable. They tend to spend a lot of money in the hotel. And not only do they spend, but they stay in the hotel, they'll stay around the bar, they'll stay in the restaurants, and they'll attract a crowd. So when we talk to them and say, look, you're bringing in guests from all sorts of nationalities. We'll make the case that it's better for them to have a single person from Ireland in there spending money than maybe a couple where they're getting the room rate, but the rest of the money is disappearing out. That tactics works. So for us, the starting, but the only reason that single holiday should be any more expensive is just around the price of the room that the hotel charges. The tour operator shouldn't be looking to make any more money out of it. The airline doesn't matter. The bus doesn't matter. And that's our point. We go to them and say, look after us on the singles. We'll bring you the rest. But as a group, we're going to make more money in the hotel because they're a sociable, high-spending category.
A question here for the third row.
Can you hear me? Of course, can you? Sorry. Okay, thank you. I'm just wondering if any Irish group does takes groups to either Armenia or Georgia. There was a very interesting exhibition in the library in Dún Laoghaire on Armenia during the year, and I would certainly love to see it. I have travelled widely, both in groups and as a single traveller.
Yeah, it's a Turkish Airlines route into Armenia. And do you want to take this? Is Armenia in your portfolio, gentlemen?
Yes, it is in the Exodus portfolio. I'm not an expert on Georgia and Armenia, but it is in our top 20 selling trip. So, it is a unique destination, and our clients do like to look for new places to go. So we've got big hopes for it. We have about 10 departures each year to Georgia and Armenia.
Right.
Dublin or from London?
So, yeah, our flights go from London, but as John was saying, we work with travel agents over here, so we work with Abbey Travel, with Trailfinders, and they can sort flights from Dublin, and then we will, once you land, we'll transfer you to the hotel. You don't need to worry about the London flight, so we'll sort out private transfers for you.
All right, thank you very much.
So it's easy to arrange.
And we have a question with the second row here as well.
I'm just wondering, in terms of Vietnam and Cambodia, about the standard of the hotels. In some of the brochures it says you're staying in 4-star, and in some of the brochures it says you're staying in 3-star. Now, I don't know what a 4-star is like in Vietnam because I haven't been there, so maybe it compares with 2-star, 3-star here. Could you help me there, please?
For that part of the world, Cambodia does have a little bit of variance in its star rating, okay? But a 4-star hotel in Vietnam, don't forget the French influence that was there in Cambodia as well. They've got their standards pretty good, Sometimes, no matter where you go in the world, the star rating can be a bit confusing. If you go to somewhere like Paris, it might be 4-star because you can see the Eiffel Tower, but it could be a kip. Do you know what I mean? But in Vietnam, because it's tourist standard, people are transient through this place, every comfort is there for you. So to answer your question, I wouldn't say no, that we would say because Vietnam call it 4-star, we'll say it's 2-star. They have gotten facilities to warrant that 4-star rating. Don't worry about that,
And can you tell me, I see in some of the brochures that they stay in a 3-star. I'm not being picky now or anything, but would that be very elementary?
It would. I mean, there's one that we do now in Phnom Penh, I'm just thinking about Cambodia, and it's a 3-star, but it's a city centre location, and you're only there for 2 nights. But it has en-suite facilities, it's perfectly clean, it has full 24-hour reception, so it has the necessities that you'll need. It's not luxury. You're not going to get... If you want luxury, we can do that, because we've teamed up with National Geographic as well. We do their tours for them now as well, and that would be 4-star plus. So we can accommodate you in 4 or 5-star.
Just wanted to find out. I just wanted to find out how elementary they were.
Yeah, no, we'll let you know. We're quite truthful about where you're staying. We'll tell you, you know.
Okay, more questions from the floor? Everyone satisfied? Orla, your favourite resort, ski resort?
Sestriere. Yeah, I think it's part of the Milky Way. Stayed in the Ducal hotel there as well. Just got refurbished as well, so got a little bit spoiled there last year, but it's an amazing resort. And yeah, so it's really
Anthony,
good.
ski knowledge?
Kitzbühel? Yeah, it feels like home.
Yeah. It's your second home, right? Martin, your favourite walk? I have a big question for you next about the equipping yourself.
It's a big question. From a scenery point of view, it's Austria. And I don't have a particular area in Austria. I've walked a lot around Zelensee, and it's lovely because you can have a lovely afternoon walk around the lake on the flat. You can take a gondola or a lift and you can walk through the mountains in the afternoon or the next day, or you can hire a bike and you can cycle to, we'd say, some of the neighbouring towns. So that's really nice. From a point of view of if I want to have a walk in kind of the sun and relax and have a glass of wine as I go, I'm going to take somewhere in northern Spain, somewhere on the Camino.
And the really important question, boots.
Okay, the most important thing about boots when you're walking is do not go with new boots.
Don't go in new boots.
Don't go with new boots. You'll run the risk of being miserable. Buy your boots 6 months before you go, walk them and use them and have them broken in. For most of the Camino, you get away with a real good quality walking shoe. We recommend to people...
He was giving a demonstration here.
Yeah, we recommend to people that there's something to give ankle support, and it doesn't necessarily have to come up much over your ankles, but need ankle support. The key thing is, it's the old story, good shoes and a good bed, because if you're not in one, you're in the other. So you need, and there's nearly no such thing as bad equipment, as a bad walk. It's bad equipment. Invest in boots. You're going to have them on for hours every day. Invest in good quality footwear. Wear them in advance. It's well worth it.
And bring the pole with the cockle shell on top of it.
Makes a huge difference. The actual walking sticks makes a huge difference. And I'm a recent convert. Well, I learned it basically in the ski slopes, using the poles on a ski slope. That's where I learned it. And then I used it in Catalonia. I was with a guide in Catalonia, and she actually showed me how to use the poles for Nordic walking, and I thought it was a bit of a joke, and I started using them. And Nordic walking is almost like an aerobic exercise and workout, and from that I use them a little bit on ordinary walks. They give you great support, and I think the fact that you're using them puts some rhythm into your step, and you seem to I think it changes your mindset about the way you walk, and I think they're a great help.
And something I noticed myself is downhill is quite difficult, and that's where the pole comes into play. Was I wrong in that? I'm not as experienced in this as you are.
As you get tired, I mean, when you walk first, the uphill is a bigger challenge. As you get fitter, and you cope with the uphill better. But when you're going downhill, it's a bigger strain on your legs and on your thighs and on your calves walking downhill, and the poles are a great help.
Right. Any last question from the audience? Thank you very much to my 5 very knowledgeable people. I've really enjoyed the session, learned a lot. You've been a great audience.